Hello from ISSA, where we're advancing clean and driving innovation. Today, we're going to talk about something that you use that's innovative, and that's your batteries and your cleaning equipment. We're concentrating on this today because it's a global issue with buildings being shut down, power being turned off for some of them, and cleaning equipment sitting there without getting a charge that it needs. So we've gathered a panel of experts from the cleaning industry's battery segment, industrial suppliers, and manufacturers to share with us their thoughts on what we can do now to prevent this from becoming an issue when buildings are opened up again. So today we're going to have with us Andy Riddle, who's a director of Battery Service Hub and has some 20 years of experience with industrial batteries and supplying equipment to the cleaning industry. With him is Tom Coyne. He's with Battery Service Hub as well, and he's a sales director with the company. And BSH specializes in lithium and fast charge solutions for a number of markets. Also with us today is going to be Mike Best with EnerSys. He's the technical support manager with EnerSys, been there 45 years, working in both motive and reserve power. You'll also see Karina Kaiser. She's with ISSA, one of our communications specialists. She'll be taking some notes and we'll report back to you beyond this video recording with some written documents, written support that you need for your company or your facility. I'd like to thank our expert panel for joining us today as we're going to talk about batteries in buildings and the issues that we see there. So we know that globally buildings are being shut down and they continue to be shut down, and some of them may be shut down for a period of time. As that happens, some buildings, the power is turned off. So we have that issue besides being a vacant building. So let's go to our experts in the industry. We have Andy here. Maybe Andy, you could start us off with, what are you seeing out there? What's the issue?
Hi, Jeff. Well, I think that you've got a mixture. You've got retail facilities, some of which are operating, such as supermarkets, which is obviously not such a clear issue. And then you've got retail outlets that are part of the closure, part of the lockdown, where machines may have been left in a state of uncharge or discharge, shall I say, and may not have had the ability to be able to be recharged before they decided what was going to happen with the building. And then you've got access problems in terms of maintenance. So, I think our guys, we're seeing the companies that we're supplying, it's an issue of batteries failing, and some of that, I guess, is down to them just not being charged properly. I don't know.
No, that's good information. Thank you, Andy. Hey, Mike, let's talk to you for a moment. What's the technical issue here with these batteries? I mean, you turn off a building, you turn off the power, you think, when I go back to work, I'll just, plug them back in and recharge them.
No, the problem you have is all batteries self-discharge over their life when they sat doing nothing. There's an electrochemical reaction within the battery which takes the capacity down. And this can only survive for so long before the battery goes into such a low state that you won't be able to charge it up again. Obviously, if you're going to put batteries into storage, the first thing is they have to be fully charged. And also disconnected from any machinery, like the machine itself, because parasitic loads will drain on the battery. Even if it's a very small load, during a long period of lying idle, then that will take the state of the battery down. The problem is with a battery is if it goes down to a very low state, especially with the maintenance-free types, the recovery is impossible in many occasions. And by their sheer value of the cost of them, it's a very costly mistake at the outset not to look after them during this period.
Thank you, appreciate that. Hey, Tom, I know you work in sales. So Mike mentioned the costs. What are we looking at here? Could you give us some ideas on if folks don't pay attention to their batteries and keep them charged, what are we looking at financially?
So it depends on the size of the machine, the size of the battery, the voltage. You could be looking, if it's a small battery, you could be looking £300 or £400. If it's a large battery, you could be looking at £2,000 or £3,000 for a battery. So it has quite hard implications.
Yeah. So for the folks watching this broadcast, Obviously, we have some folks from Europe, and he mentioned pounds. That's a lot of dollars as well. So we have, these
Yeah.
batteries are all over the world, and I know in Europe they're when they shut down buildings, they turn power off. I imagine in the United States and other countries they do as well. So very expensive a mistake, obviously. Is this a unique issue with batteries succumbing to this? Is it just because of this pandemic we're going through, or is this information that is good all the time?
Good all the
Hi,
time.
Tom.
Yes,
Go ahead.
it's good all the time. A battery should always be charged on a regular basis. If you shut the factory for the weekend, and you can, then I would put any machine on charge and leave it, because it won't do the battery any harm whatsoever.
You can leave them plugged in.
Leave them plugged in.
All right, good to know.
Yeah, most chargers do give you, in some of them, give you the option of an opportunity charge after the main charge. So leaving it plugged into the charger is a good strategy.
Yeah, as a consumer, I've heard the opposite. I've heard that if you leave things plugged in, it harms the battery. Obviously, bad information, or maybe just the kind of batteries I use. I don't know.
I think it depends on the type.
The type, yeah. Well,
But
I
also,
know you folks know what you're talking about, and you all produce great products. Let's talk about solutions. Now, you mentioned leave them plugged in, but right now, let's say you're a building service contractor and your equipment's in a building that's locked up and turned off. The power's off. There's nothing they can do, I guess. But if there's an opportunity, what would you advise? What can we do in the meantime? Pull
Well,
the
the only
equipment out?
Go on, Mike. Sorry.
The only thing is, if you leave it connected to the charger, even if the power is turned off at the time you plug it in, if the power is restored at any time, then the charger will kick in and it will recharge the battery. So it's a win-win situation from that point of view, and it's better to have it connected rather than not have it connected. The worst thing you could do is leave it connected to the machine itself, especially if the machine, any of the functions are still turned on.
yeah,
I think the other challenge you've got as well is, depending on how long the machines are left idle for, is a lot of the equipment now comes with onboard chargers, and most of the onboard chargers are probably rated more towards the lower end than say the higher end of where, if we were speccing a machine, or a charger, we might recommend a 20 amp charger rather than an onboard might be at 14 or 15 amps. And obviously the lower output chargers are going to struggle to get those batteries back up as well. So another issue you've got, whilst you could take batteries away and test them, it would be a very costly and lengthy process to actually try and do that, to cycle them. And companies even large as Enesis, I guess, Mike, it's just time, and don't have the facility manpower to be able to do that either.
Thanks.
Jeff,
So-
I would recommend that if someone can gain access
Mm-hmm.
to the building, because at the speed of how this lockdown happened, I'm pretty sure that most people just abandoned the equipment, put it back to where it should be, maybe not plugged it in. If people can access the buildings, then they should plug the battery into the charger, as Mike said. Even if the power is off, if it does come back on, at least it can charge it. If the batteries are wet, they should make sure that the battery is topped up, just over the top of the plates. Normally, we'd recommend topping a battery up after it being charged, but in this case, we would just recommend topping the battery up over the plates and leaving it plugged into the charger. So if it does come on for, say, a week or something, maybe someone's in there doing a maintenance of other products, that would be at least go some way to help him with the problem.
Good advice. I imagine a lot of folks watching this right now are probably thinking, I got to get back in my building and plug those machines back in. So if you can do that, sounds like a great first step to take right now. Maybe one final question, then if you have more to add, that would be great. How much time, is there a number of days or weeks that you say is an average of crucial non-plugged in battery equipment? Is it a week? Is 10 days? Is there such a number where you have to start really worrying?
It varies. It varies. Like as Mike said, if the batteries, if there's a parasitic draw on the product, then it's discharging all the time. The battery is always discharging anyway, but plugged into something, it's going to discharge quicker. So if you leave it for much more than, I don't know, 7 to 10 days,
Okay.
you're going to have a problem. Would you say that? Would you agree with that, Mike?
Yeah. Our desire now for technology means that there's more instruments and battery monitors being put on these batteries, and they all drain power, albeit that it's a very low rate, but it's still consuming power. So a battery with nothing on could stay, if it's fully charged, a few months. But if you've got a monitor that's drawing current all the time, you could need to recharge that battery within a month.
Yeah.
Good advice. And hopefully those watching this today or reading, I know Karina Kaiser there is on with us today. She's taking some notes and will provide some guidance in a written format as well for the industry. But appreciate all the great advice you folks have shared. Any other final thoughts we might include for the industry?
No, I don't think so, Mike. I think, Jeff, sorry, I think it's just it's the basics, and of course the challenge is going to be for these guys to get access, I guess.
Yeah,
I think as well, just a final point for me is that once you know that we're going to be re-established and the business is going back into action, is to try and get back in before that day to make sure and check the battery, because if the battery is dead completely, then obviously that's going to hamper your startup.
Yeah.
Yeah. People will be ordering products from you folks, and they want it. Oh, they want it now.
Yeah.
Yeah. Otherwise,
That doesn't change then.
They'll be doing manual labor instead of using their innovative equipment.
Yeah.
Well, folks, I appreciate your time, and we'll catch up again another time.
Thanks, Jeff.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jeff. Stay safe. Cheers.